If you find the process of watering your indoor plants a stressful experience, then I've got just the thing for you. Most of us struggle with getting the balance right between under and over watering, with lots of us tending to be over generous with the watering can, but this simple little device I'm about to show you takes all that stress away completely. No more worrying about if and when your plant needs a drink. No more worrying about how much water to give. No more worrying about anything. It really is a game changer. It's also a massive time saver too. This means you can enjoy your plants guilt-free in the knowledge they're being looked after on autopilot, which is a real blessing. And a quick shout out to Surfshark, who are the sponsors of today's video, but more on them in a little bit. Let's get straight to it then. The solution to your houseplant watering worries are these little terracotta stakes that you can pick up from Amazon, or probably from your local garden centre too. I'll add them to my Amazon store for you to check out. These are essentially little self-watering systems that you insert into the soil of your plants. I've mentioned plastic watering globes as a self-watering option for your plants. They're a decent option, but recently I'm finding these terracotta stakes to be better. They have a porous surface, which means they have tiny holes that allow water to seep through slowly. This slow seepage is really helpful because it prevents the water from evaporating too quickly and keeps the soil around the pot moist. This is something they do better than those plastic globes with holes in the bottom. If you have terracotta pots, you'll notice that they dry out much quicker than plastic pots. This is because the moisture is being constantly pulled from the soil into the clay and then evaporated into the air. When these stakes are buried into the soil, the moisture transfers slowly to the soil rather than the air. Pretty neat, eh? It's a super consistent method of watering your plants by trickle effect. It means the roots will have a constant supply of moisture and you won't have to worry about when to water and how much to give. Your only concern will be making sure the wine bottle is topped up with water. We'll come back to why you need a wine bottle in a sec. The obvious advantage to these is for when you're off on your jolly holidays in the Caribbean or wherever. For me, whenever I go on my summer holidays in Europe, I can't afford the Caribbean, you see, I have two big worries nagging away at me. First, are my plants getting the water they need without me? And second, what gems of inspiration am I missing from Monty by not being able to watch Gardener's World that week? Well, these terracotta stakes will perfectly put my mind at ease about my plants when I'm away from home for a week or two and there's an unexpected heat wave in Sheffield. And for my second worry, and believe me, it keeps me up at night not being able to watch Gardener's World on a Friday night, I've now got the perfect solution from today's video sponsor, Surfshark VPN. I don't want to flummox you too much with geeky computer speak, but basically VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. Imagine you've got a garden full of plants, but you've got some that are more precious than others and you want to protect them from the elements. You might invest in a little greenhouse to shelter them from the outside world. Well, a VPN acts like a greenhouse for your internet connection, making it so no one can track you and provides a secure private environment for your online activity. But Surfshark VPN doesn't just keep you safe online, it allows you to access blocked content, which is where the real gold lies. Websites like Netflix have blocked content based on where you are in the world. This means I don't get to watch the same shows as someone living in the US or Canada. Boo! You can use Surfshark VPN to connect to an internet server in another country where a particular Netflix series or show is not blocked and watch it. This means I can now sit in my villa in Spain and watch all the Gardener's World on BBC iPlayer I want because my Surfshark VPN is telling my phone I'm in the UK. What a relief! If you don't live in the UK and have no idea what Gardener's World is, then get yourself 3 extra months of Surfshark VPN for free by using my code in the description of this video. Set your VPN to the UK and watch some episodes on BBC iPlayer. Honestly, you won't regret it. Monty & Co are full of gardening tips, tricks and inspiration that has truly inspired me to become plant obsessed. Surfshark VPN comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, plus you're getting 3 extra months free through my discount code in the description, so you really got nothing to lose. So we talked about the use of terracotta stakes, but how do you actually set them up? It's pretty simple really. Create a pilot hole in the soil of your plant by inserting the stake deep into the soil so that the opening is more or less flush flush with the soil. If your soil is fairly compact, then use something like a stick or a little trowel to dig out some soil. And don't worry too much about hurting the roots. Plants are resilient and can take some roots breaking in one section of the soil. And it doesn't matter too much if the stake is poking out a bit. As long as the majority of it is in the soil, you'll be fine. Now, grab yourself a bottle of wine, sit down on the sofa and drink the contents while watching reruns of Gardener's World on iPlayer. The next day, grab your empty wine bottle from the night before, as well as some paracetamol for your head, and fill it up with water. If you're a plant pro like those in the know, you'll be using tap water treated with water conditioner like I've talked about in a recent video. I'll link to it at the end of this video. Take your terracotta stake and put it over the top of the bottle like a lid. Now carefully tip it upside down and insert the whole thing into the pilot hole you made in the soil, making sure that it's sturdy and not likely to tip over. These things are fairly robust and shouldn't topple over once they're in place. Not unless you've got an inquisitive 3-year-old like me who just loves to see why I've got mum's wine bottle in one of my plants. The bottle you use needs to be a long-necked one so that the stake fits comfortably over it. Soda bottles won't really work, I'm afraid, but at least it gives you an excuse to treat yourself to a couple of nice bottles of wine. I mean, you're helping your plants after all, right? You might think that once you upturn the bottle and stake, that water will flow out of the sides of the stake until the bottle empties, but this isn't the case because of the wonders of gravity or something. Because these stakes are being inserted into soil, I do advise to soak them in water for 1 or 2 hours before first use to prevent the stakes from quickly absorbing water from the bottle. So it's a good idea to do this first and then set up your wine bottle and plant. You might be wondering what happens when the soil reaches saturation point. You don't want your plant to start suffering from overwatering after all. The really neat thing about these terracotta stakes is that the wetter the soil is, the slower the rate of transfer of water. So if your plant is bone dry and you insert one of these into the soil, it's going to get to work quicker than if your plant already has moist soil. Essentially, this means that the soil will reach an optimum moisture level and then the rate of transfer will slow so that your plant doesn't become overwatered. That's the real beauty of these items compared to the plastic globes you can use, which just slowly pour a constant amount of water into the soil without any fault for the plant. So I've been using these things for a few weeks now. I've got one in my smaller Monstera in my dining room, and I would say the water use rate is about 1 litre per week. It's a great use case for these because this plant is living in a terracotta pot, so it dries out quicker than my other plants in my collection. Rather than having to keep an eye on it so much, I can just keep one of these bad boys in it and I know I'm covered. I've got a much larger Monstera in my bedroom living in a rather hefty plastic pot, and I've actually got 2 of these inserted into the soil. Again, each of the bottles is emptying by about half in a week, and as the soil gets wetter, the rate of water transfer slows. For most plants though, one of these stakes will be all you need. They're a fairly decent size, about 18 centimeters in length and more than the circumference of a bottle of wine, so are suitable for medium-sized plants. If you have a very large plant in a large pot, like my bedroom Monstera, then you may want to add another one. I'd play it by ear though. Start with one, see how the plant gets on and how moist the soil is after a week or 2, and then decide if you need another one. If you've got tiny plants, then obviously these won't really work because they won't be able to fit neatly in the pot. These terracotta stakes aren't a new invention, of course. They've actually been around for thousands of years. They're based on the same idea of terracotta oyas, which are ancient watering systems that are still being used today. These pots were used by civilizations like the ancient Egyptians, Greek and Romans. They were even used by Native American tribes in North and South America. Much like these stakes, they're buried in the ground with the top part sticking out. The pot is filled with water and the water seeps through the pores into the surrounding soil. It's a natural watering system for garden plants and it helps them get just the right amount of water they need. Oyas have been used in places where water is scarce or where it's important to conserve water. They've been used in dry and arid regions like parts of Africa, the Middle East and in parts of southwestern United States. And they first came to my attention when Kevin at Epic Gardening featured them on his channel. Earlier I mentioned you should be filling these terracotta stakes with tap water that has been treated with water conditioner, and in this video here I explain why this is one of the best things I've done for my plants, so click on the link so you don't miss out.